everyone. After receiving a huge response from our audience, we're excited to bring to you the second season of the Study Abroad Insights series. And this time we have more experts joining us to answer your questions. What other things would you look for in an application? Okay, so I'll get my degree from the US, and then what's going to be the return on investment for me? Could you tell us a little bit about, when we talk about rankings, for example, and accreditation, what is the importance and what is the difference also between those two things? How do I get an internship? Is it paid? You know, if it's not paid, what percentage of students have you seen find jobs? I'm your host, Dharma Nayak, and on behalf of IDP Education, I welcome you to the second season of the USA Study Abroad Insights series. Keep watching this space for more information, and I'll see you soon. Hi friends, today I'm very excited to bring to you the first episode in our second series of the IDP Study Abroad series for the most exciting destination, in my opinion, the USA. My name is Dharma Nayak, and I am the Associate Director for US Client Relations with IDP Education. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Tyler Oxley, who is a Senior Assistant Director for International Admissions at Virginia Tech from Blacksburg, Virginia in the USA. Thank you for joining us today, Tyler.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me, Tyler, how many years have you been with Virginia Tech?
So I've been with Virginia Tech for almost 3 years now, but I've worked in university admissions for almost 10 years now, in the past 10 years.
10 years, okay, that's wonderful. And you must get to meet so many people and travel a lot. So obviously, aside from India, what's your most favorite place where you travel to recruit?
Right, aside from India, actually last year, I had the opportunity to go to Kyrgyzstan, a country I've never been to and didn't know much about. And it was just an awesome experience. The landscapes, the people the food was incredible. It was a great experience.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Having a little bit of jealousy there myself. So we're really looking forward to interacting with you today and sharing your insights with our audience, and sharing your tips and advice that you may have for students or parents who might be, listening in today with us. So could you tell us a little bit more about your role? What makes it unique, exciting? Why do you do what you do?
Sure. So I do have unique opportunities, not only to travel and work in higher education, but to meet incredible students, incredible families who are taking a risk in a lot of ways, sending students to the U.S. But seizing on that opportunity and seeing what they want to do in the future, and then seeing students as they continue on from first years to how they grow. And to become, all that they can be, essentially.
Right, thank you. And, in your experience, Tyler, why do you think the USA is so popular amongst Indian students especially? Yeah. What is it about the country that, really makes it a #1 choice for many?
I think there's a number of opportunities, but I think the primary reason is just the university education system in the U.S. gives students a lot of chances to take advantage of numerous opportunities. And
right.
Some of the students, they get involved in research. I think that's primarily what draws students in, is working with professors who are using state-of-the-art equipment, who are challenging boundaries. And I think that's something that brings students not only from India, but from all over the world to the U.S. The U.S. is a melting pot in a lot of ways, and so that brings in university students from all around the world, and I think that's one of the aspects of why students are choosing to come to the U.S.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons when I was an international student myself in the U.S. that diversity of students and people you get to meet is really attractive. Yeah. Now, oftentimes, though, people feel that perhaps studying in the U.S. might be an expensive proposition, but what would you say to students who are considering the U.S. from a financial perspective in terms of, say, meals, accommodation, transport? What should they consider, or what should they not be so afraid of?
I think you need to do your research. You need to understand not all universities cost the same amount. And so not all places to live cost the same amount. Studying in New York City versus in rural America, in Kansas or something like that, is the price differences are very different. And so you can find places to study that meet your budget, but also you can understand that you don't all need a car. Traveling around, it's a lot of university campuses will have public transportation, so you can save money that way. But if you plan ahead, you understand how much you're able to budget, then you can set aside a certain amount of money for each academic year.
Okay, thank you. And Tyler, now many times we often hear students saying, do I really have to take the GRE or the SAT or GMAT? You know, can't I just apply without? So, you know, what would you say to that, or what is the importance of taking such admission tests?
Yeah, you do have to take admissions tests primarily. Most universities at the undergraduate level will require either a language test or an SAT or an ACT or something like that. But not all universities are the same. And so it's important to understand what each university requires and what each program requires. For example, at certain universities for graduate programs, they may require a GRE, or if you're studying business, they may require a GMAT, or they may not require any other entrance exams. Right. And so, you know, you can't just go off of what one university says. You need to go on the websites, call, email, work with IDP specialists to understand what are the entry requirements for each institution and each degree program.
Right, no, that's very important. Now, as you mentioned, with IDP, our counselors do work with students and help them shortlist universities. But what advice would you give to students in terms of what factors should they consider when, you know, choosing what could be a right university for them?
Yeah. One of the great things about studying in the U.S. is there's so many different universities. There's about, what, 3,000, 4,000 different universities, from small community colleges to very large state institutions like the one that I work at. And so it's very easy to find a university that fits into what your goals are. Do you want to study at a big university, a small university? Do you want to live in a big city? Do you want to live maybe in a smaller town in the mountains or on the coast? And so first you need to understand a little bit about what your goals are and what you want to accomplish and what is going to fit best with what type of person you are. I know when I was looking at universities, I knew I didn't want to go to a big school because I was a very shy person, and when I was 18 years old. And so it was very important that I went to a small liberal arts school. So, you know, you need to understand a little bit about yourself and what type of environment you're going to thrive in. And then, you know, if you have opportunities to go meet with representatives or to interact with professors, email, call them. Most professors, universities are going to be open to interacting with you, whether it's via email or webinars or even at college fairs, things like that. You know, there's so many ways to learn about universities, talk with other Indian students who are currently studying in the U.S. You can learn a lot about what types of experiences they've had.
Absolutely, great advice. Now, along with that, Tyler, what do you find are courses that are really popular among students, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level?
Well, I think Indian students generally are looking for engineering programs. Computer science, computer engineering are the most popular, but at the same time, there's more and more students who are trying to break out of those molds and look at other programs that we offer. And so, you know, whether it's in business or in liberal arts, international relations, political science areas, or agriculture and natural resources, there's programs in the U.S. that are going to fit with whatever types of interest you have. And so, yes, engineering is the most common for students at undergraduate and graduate levels, but there's students that are studying in all different types of programs. Okay.
Now, what if a student might have varied interests? So, for example, maybe their parents are saying, you have to do this course, but their interest or passion might be something else. So could you help them understand the concept of a major and a minor?
Yeah. So, as I alluded to earlier, the U.S. education system allows students to have a lot of opportunities outside of their majors of interest. And so in the U.S., we have what's called a minor. A minor is where you're going to study a little, maybe between 15 credits and 30 credits in a specific area that's going to be outside of your major. All right, and so that can be in a number of different things. Let's say you have an interest, your parents are telling you have to do computer science, but yet you have an interest in art. And you can do a degree in computer science with a subsidiary degree, a minor in art or music or something that you're interested in. And that allows you to take classes that maybe you are gonna brighten up your day. Maybe it's gonna be something different than what you're used to. But also to allow you to maybe experience new things and to better enhance your primary degree. So if you're doing a degree in business or something like that, you could do a minor in a language. You could learn Spanish or French or Arabic or something along those lines that can really enhance your full college education.
Sure, I'm sure a lot of students will be happy to hear that.
Yes.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about assessment in the classroom? So what I mean by that is, how are students assessed on the quality of their work, their academics? Is it that they have to memorize a full year's worth and there are exams, or is it different in the US compared to, say, India, for example?
I think that's one of the challenges that Indian students have when they come to the US is just the education system is different, and the marking system is going to be very different. And so US professors expect their students to be active in the classroom, to have read the materials prior to coming to class so you're able to discuss what was going on. And that's not just in maybe liberal arts programs. That's going to be for all different types of programs, whether you're studying physics or whether you're doing a language. Professors are going to expect you to be active, to ask questions, to challenge them. I think sometimes students get into the mindset that the professor knows everything, and that's not necessarily true. And so U.S. professors expect to be challenged, to be questioned on why certain things are certain ways. And so that's going to be a huge part of the marking system. Is a lot of classes will have 30% of the grade will be your in-class participation.
Right.
So not only do professors expect you to come to class, they expect you to participate.
Absolutely.
And not just sit in the back and take a nap.
Absolutely true. So no backbenches allowed.
No backbenches. And aside from that, there's going to be group projects. U.S. Education systems are encourage students to work together, and so that will allow you to learn to work in group settings, to maybe work with students from a different background from you, who maybe think differently from you, who have maybe different work experiences, and so you can learn a lot about working with different types of people in that kind of setting.
Right. Okay, great. And now, research, typically students might think it's something reserved only, say, for faculty or PhD students. But what opportunities are available for otherwise undergraduate and graduate students? Because the US is very well known for research and innovation. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
As I mentioned earlier, one of the great aspects of coming to the U.S. to study is research opportunities. Right. And whether you're studying at a small liberal arts college or whether you're at a large public institution, there's going to be that research opportunity, especially at the graduate level, but also at the undergraduate level. And so it's really important that when you first come to the university that you understand what types of opportunities there are for research, and to be active. No professor is going to come up to you and say, oh, you're going to come work for me as a research assistant. Right. You're going to have to be proactive about it. But professors are always looking for students to become part of the research teams. And a lot of times in the first couple of classes of a semester, the professors will talk a little bit about the research that they're working on. And will encourage you to get involved and become part of their research teams. As a first-year student, as a second-year student, you might not have the great jobs. You might clean Petri dishes or do data entry or things like that. But as you gain more experience, as you gain more of a foundation in the programs that you're studying, you can have opportunities to do your own research at the undergraduate level, to take advantage of the resources that universities have, the equipment that the universities have, and the professors that we have, to be able to challenge yourself, to take advantage of those research teams.
All right. And is that something that you look for when you're evaluating applications, in sense of, a student who's kind of willing to make that effort? What other things would you look for in an application?
Sure. At the undergraduate level, it's not necessarily something that we're going to look at too much. If you have it, that can be an asset.
Right.
It's more going to be at the graduate levels that I think that we're going to, reviewers are going to look for that research experience. And so any type of research experience you can have is going to be beneficial to your application, especially at the graduate level, where it's going to be there's going to be more chances to get involved, and professors are going to expect you to have experiences already. Right.
And now, along with that, oftentimes, students kind of get stuck up when they have to write their statement or an essay as part of their, application process, or even trying to get letters of reference from, say, professors or high school teachers. So what role or how important are these two aspects in the admissions process, and how much weight do you place on them?
Yeah. So each university is going to be different in how they review those, what they expect you to do, what types of questions they're going to ask, and so it's really important that first of all you answer the questions. If you're going to do a statement of purpose or a letter or kind of an essay, answer the question and don't use the same essay for multiple questions. All right? 'Cause as a reviewer, you can always tell when someone is trying to pigeonhole something into a question that doesn't really work. And so it's really important that you do each question on its own and you think about it. Don't just spend 5 minutes writing it and say, all right, this is good, I'm going to send it off. Think about it for a day or two and then sit down and try to write and then come back to it and have somebody that you're close to, whether it's a parent or a high school counselor or an IDP counselor, review what you've written already. They can bring some fresh eyes to it and kind of give you guidance in terms of what will work and maybe what doesn't work. At Virginia Tech, we do take them extremely seriously. So, whether you're applying to our graduate programs or to the undergraduate programs, we have statement of purposes that are very important. And they're actually read, which some universities maybe don't actually read them too closely. Yeah. Ours are read by at least 3 different people, and so it's really important that you do put a little bit of time into it and write your own honest expression. Don't think about what I want to see, actually write your own responses. As far as letters of recommendation goes, it is important that you do know the person that you're asking to recommend you, whether it's a high school teacher, a counselor, someone you've worked for in the past. It's really important that this person actually knows a little bit about you and is able to write that down in the letters of recommendation. Sometimes letters of recommendation are really bland; they don't really say anything, and so that actually is going to be more of a negative than it would be if it was just a letter of something that is very specific. All right, and at high school level, or excuse me, at undergraduate level, maybe the letters of recommendation aren't quite as important, but at the graduate level, that's where it's going to be really important that you're actually able to ask somebody to write the letter for you who knows you and knows what types of experiences you've had and what type of person you are.
No, I think that's really, really good advice. Yeah. Now, I do have more questions for you, but there are always 2 very important questions that people ask, and one is, okay, so I'll get my degree from the US, and then what's going to be the return on investment for me? Or, what about OPT if I'm a STEM major or non-STEM major? So could you talk a little bit about that and what does that mean, or what's your experience been?
Yeah, so in the U.S., we have a program called OPT, which allows students to work for 12 months after you've completed your degree. Okay. And if you're a STEM major student, then you can add an additional 24 months to that. And so that gives you a lot of chances to work, to gain experiences that can help you out down the road. And so, it's really important that you think about that you understand what types of opportunities are going to be available and that you're preparing for those. If you're an undergraduate student, there's going to be internships that are available. There's going to be co-ops or work experiences that are going to help you out. And so it's really important that you build your own resume as part of your degree so that once you do graduate, you do have that opportunity. And at universities, there's going to be things called job fairs where organizations and companies come to campuses to meet with students, and it's really important that you go out and you meet these hiring professionals who are going to look at your resume and kind of guide you in terms of what opportunities may work for you. And don't wait until you're ready to graduate for that, because it's going to be too late. It's really important that you start thinking about what types of jobs you may want, what types of opportunities you're looking for early on in your education, so that you do have that resume. And working with career centers is really important. Each university is going to have a career center that's going to help students write your resumes, write your cover letters, understand where you can find jobs, internships and co-ops and things like that.
So it sounds like networking is a key aspect of that, for sure.
Yes, networking is really important. Right. Whether you're networking with professors or other classmates, that's something that's going to help you out down the road.
Absolutely. And I think that's directly tied to the value a student will get out of their education. Right. And what they might consider their return on investment.
Right,
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely. And could you tell us then, while a student is studying, obviously they would probably not only like to study, what kind of cultural activities or co-curricular activities are available, whether it's specific, say, to an Indian student and their cultural background, or sports, or music, whatever it might be?
Universities are a melting pot of students, and so there's going to be students from varying different backgrounds, different experiences, and differing ways that students like to spend their time. And so there's going to be clubs, there's going to be organizations, there's going to be sports for you to get involved with. Whatever you like to be doing outside of the classroom, there's going to be other students who have similar interests. In the U.S., your week of studying is going to be about 15 hours in the classroom. So you're going to have a lot of time outside the classroom to experience new things and to get involved. And so it's really important that you take advantage of all those different opportunities, whether it's being part of an Indian student association or whether it's taking part in an intramural soccer team. There's so many different ways, and it's really important for you to take advantage of those so that you can meet new people, experience new cultures, take advantage of all the different opportunities that the university experiences allow you to do.
Right, thank you for that. And Tyler, now oftentimes, parents especially at the undergraduate level perhaps talk a lot about rankings, and universities in turn will obviously talk about we're number 10 or we're number 5 or top 100. But could you tell us a little bit about, when we talk about rankings, for example, and accreditation, what is the importance and what is the difference also between those two things?
Yeah, so accreditation is really, really important. You want to make sure that you're going to an accredited institution. So universities themselves have to be accredited. Different programs themselves have to be accredited. So if you're looking for an engineering program, it's really important that you look for an ABET accredited program so that you know that the program that you're studying in has been reviewed by an outside organization, and that the curriculum level itself is vetted and is following certain criteria. And a lot of different programs, whether it's business, engineering, or sciences, they're going to have these accrediting bodies. And so you can go to universities' websites and understand what types of accreditation each university will have. Rankings, I think sometimes students get too caught up in the rankings. The difference between a top 10 university and a top 50 university maybe is not quite as big as some people would think it to be. Obviously they are important because they do show what types of outcomes students have, what types of opportunities there are for students, but sometimes it's more important to look at the program itself. What types of classes are you going to be taking? Because not all programs are the same. So if you're studying a business program, it may not have the same curriculum as at one school as it has at another school. And so it's really important to look at the individual classes to understand if that program is right for you, to dig down a little bit deeper into what those rankings mean and to look at each individual program themselves.
So it could be, Tyler, for example, that you may have a course that's highly accredited, well ranked, but the whole institution may not be as well ranked.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is very true, yeah. So there's a number of different universities who have one program that they are very, very well known for.
Right.
And so, that one program may be top 10 in the US or top 10 in the world, but the university itself may not be that highly ranked. So, just because a university is top 1,000 in the US, but yet they have a great program, that could still be the right fit for you. And so it's really important that you do your research and understand a little bit more about what those rankings mean.
Absolutely. I'm sure many now are really excited to apply to the US, but could you tell us, at an undergraduate level versus a graduate level, what are average tuition fees that a student might be looking at?
It varies dramatically. Yeah. There's community colleges in the U.S., two-year institutions that provide a platform to go on to four-year universities that will have tuition in the $5,000 to $10,000 range per academic year. Some universities, some private universities may have tuition that goes up to $70,000, $75,000 per year. So there's a wide array of estimated costs, and so and then some schools may offer more financial aid than others, and so it's really important that you understand a little bit about what those costs mean. And so and add in all the different costs, because tuition is just one piece of the cost. You're going to have dormitories, you're going to have food expenses, travel expenses, clothes, books, all those different types of things, so that it's really, you need to make sure that you're not just looking at one piece of the whole total cost, that you understand all the different costs that are associated with studying outside of your home country. So.
Okay. And to help offset this, Tyler, are scholarships available generally speaking? And if so, do students have to apply for them separately from, say, their whole admissions?
Yeah. Again, each university is going to have their own processes and what they're able to offer. And so it's really important that you go to the university admissions websites and follow. A lot of schools will have kind of a checklist of things that you have to do, whether there's a scholarship application that you need to complete, or whether there's certain documents that you need to provide, like financial income, what types of, how much your parents make and things like that, so that you follow those. So a lot of universities will be able to provide financial assistance to students. Some universities will be able to provide more than others, and so each university is a little bit different in what they're able to provide.
Absolutely. And are essays required for some scholarships?
Sometimes their essays are going to be required. It may be an essay that's part of the application process itself, or there may be a separate scholarship application that does provide an essay or require an essay. Likewise, sometimes honors colleges will require essays, and a lot of times honors students will have more opportunities for funding as well. So it's, again, you gotta work with your counselors, your specialists, things like that, to learn a little bit about what the process actually looks like.
Okay, no, that's good. And in right now, you mentioned about dormitory fees, for example. That's a cost to consider.
True.
But generally, what housing options are available to students? Is it on campus, off campus, and does it differ for, say, an undergraduate student versus a graduate student?
Yeah, so it does differ in a lot of ways. Most universities, I'd say probably the vast majority of universities, will be able to provide first-year housing for undergraduate students. At least at the universities that I've worked at, sometimes they require students to live on campus for that first year or even the second year. So that generally is going to be able to provide housing. Grad students, sometimes there's going to be specific grad housing. There may be family housing as well if you have a spouse or children. The universities may be able to accommodate you there. But a lot of times grad students are going to be expected to live off campus. And to be honest, I think that's sometimes a better experience, because you're not hanging around 18-year-olds all the time or things like that. So, and a lot of universities will be able to help you out. If they aren't able to provide you housing on campus, they will at least be able to give you resources where you can go to look for apartments or rentals and things like that, so that you're not just going to be expected to find all that on your own.
Okay, so a lot of services are available to help students.
Yes.
Okay.
It is important to ask what is available, and understand, is there a housing application that you need to complete, or who do I contact if I want to live off campus, and all those types of things.
Okay. Now, the U.S. being a large country, students often wonder, well, can I drive over there? Do I need to drive? Do I need a car? So how do they usually get around, whether it's on campus or in and around the area?
If you're in a big city, public transportation is probably going to be a friend. If you're in a smaller town, it may be a bit more difficult, but a lot of times universities, especially large universities, will have some sort of bus transportation, at least to campus and back. If you're going to a large public institution, a lot of times apartment complexes outside of the campus will have buses that run directly on the campus. Universities are good at working with their local communities to be able to find ways for students to get onto campus, whether it's through public transportation, or bike paths, or walking paths, or public transportation. There's going to be plenty of ways for you to get around. Sometimes it is easier to have a car. The U.S. is known for its having that driving opportunities, and so if you can afford that can be great. But make sure you factor in all the different costs of having a car, insurance, and parking restrictions or parking fees on campus. Sometimes it's really expensive to park your car on campus. So that's just things that you do need to think about.
Okay. Now, all of this could be overwhelming for students, and in the process, maybe they get sick,
Yeah.
So, how would they deal with that in terms of, can they just go in to see any doctor or hospital? Do they require health insurance? What should an Indian student prepare for in that way?
Yeah. So health insurance is going to be required, whether you have a plan here in India or whether you purchase the health insurance from the university. That is something that most schools will be able to provide for you, and it's really important to have because health costs in the U.S. are extremely expensive. So it is something that you need to have. But a lot of universities will have a health clinic on campus that will be able to help you if you get sick, or if you have the flu, or if you skin your knee playing soccer or something like that. That will be able to take care of minor issues, and then be able to refer you to a hospital if need be. And so, we do have fantastic healthcare in the U.S. So that's something that it will benefit you if you do unfortunately get ill or something like that. But universities will have an international office that will be able to help guide you to what resources you have, what things you need to do before you arrive on campus. Especially like getting shots and all those different types of things before you come. Shots aren't fun for anybody, but it is something really important to have, so you don't have to worry about getting those once you come to the U.S.
Okay, and just to clarify, by shots we do mean vaccinations.
Yeah, vaccinations, sorry.
Not other kind. So Tyler, obviously it's really important and reassuring to know that students can be like hale and hardy when they're on campus and maybe far away from home. So they can, maybe do internships also. So, a really popular question always is, how do I get an internship? Is it paid? If it's not paid, like what's the point?
Right.
Is it full-time, part-time? So how do internships generally work for students? Is it something that's given as part of a course or something they need to find like on their own?
That's a great question because it's different for each programs. And so some programs do actually require an internship of some sort, whether that's an on-campus internship or, when you come home for the summer to do an internship or things like that. But their universities themselves are really good about giving their students opportunities outside the classroom. And so whether you do an internship or whether you have work experience or take advantage of a co-op, there's going to be a lot of chances for you to gain work experience. And so sometimes they're paid and then sometimes they're not paid. But like you mentioned earlier, so what's the point? Well, gaining experience, you can earn credit for the internships that you're doing, but you're also building relationships, which can help you when you're trying to find a job down the road, to have a reference or to have that experience that maybe other students won't be able to get because they're not taking advantage of those internships.
Okay, now that's good to know. And how would a part-time job, for example, be different from an internship? Are students allowed to do part-time jobs while they study? And typically what might be an average, say, hourly salary they might get?
Yeah, so federal regulations allow international students to work up to 20 hours a week on campus.
Okay.
And so that's a really important distinction, working on campus. So a lot of students will work in the dining halls, which is great because you get to have free lunch as part of the time that you're working. As far as pay goes, most of the time it's going to be anywhere between $9 to $11 an hour, depending on what you're doing and what type of experience you have for that job. And it's really important that you do factor in all of what you have to do for that job, and so that you're not overwhelming yourself. Yes, it's great to have some extra cash, some extra pocket money for the weekends and things like that, but don't let that hurt your study. And so it's really important that you are able to balance everything throughout the week.
Okay. Now, as a student, if I'm, say, not coming home for the holidays, can I work more hours during the holidays, or can I, if I find a better paying job off campus, can I do that?
So I'm not an immigration expert. So you need to work with your immigration advisor on campus to figure out what you can do and what you can't do. During holidays, you do have more opportunities to gain work experience. But most of the time it's going to be on campus. Sometimes you may have a chance to work off campus. We do have what's called CPT, or curricular practical training, which allows students to gain work experience outside of the university. And so so working with your immigration advisor on campus will allow you to understand what those regulations are and what chances you have to work outside of campus.
Okay, that's a very good distinction to make, because students often wonder, how will I be able to survive? Or say if I want to travel within the US, how could I maybe earn a little bit of money to be able to do that? So that's good to know. And what percentage of students have you seen find jobs maybe related to the field that they want to study in? Is that very common, or do you have any success stories you might want to share with us?
Yeah, so each university is going to be different in terms of what their outcomes are, and so that's one of the things that you do want to look at when you're reviewing schools to understand what types of job opportunities the alumni are having. Okay. Good universities are going to track that information and are going to show you what types of outcomes each individual major is going to have. And so universities will say, all right, students that are studying in chemical engineering, these are the places that students are going to go work. And they'll be able to show you, provide you with good, positive outcomes for students. What types of experiences students are going to have after they complete their degrees. Whether students are going on to professional degrees, or whether they're going on to the master's programs or MBAs and things like that. And so, it's really important that you do that research to understand where students are going to work. Virginia Tech, for example, we have students that are going to work for large engineering firms, Boeing, for example, or business students are going to go work for accounting firms, large accounting firms and things like that. And so it's really, there's going to be that information out there. Talking with alumni as well is really important. Understanding what types of challenges students have after you graduate, but also what types of opportunities there are going to be.
Right. So it sounds like students really need to multitask and be adaptive.
Yes, and be outgoing and be resourceful. Nobody's going to come to you and say, all right, you're going to go work over here now because this is where we place students, or anything like that. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to apply for it. Each year there's hundreds of thousands of students that are graduating from universities, and you're going to have to rise above a lot of those in order to find that job. But Virginia Tech, we have a really high graduation rate. We have a really high job placement rates. Salary rate is considerably higher than the national average. And so it's really important that you do your research to understand what universities are providing after you graduate.
Now, some of the things you mentioned, I could foresee being challenging for some Indian students because they're not used to it, or maybe the university or college or high school where they went to, things were more given to them, rather than them having to go out to seek it. So what advice would you give to an Indian international student in terms of how to prep themselves so they don't get so overwhelmed or feel like they don't know what to do once they're there?
Right. And that's the case of not just Indian students. That's the case for international students, for U.S. students as well, being overwhelmed when you come to university campuses. And so preparing yourself is really important, but also reaching out to the resources that you have, whether it's the Indian Student Association or it's the college, the department that you're going to be studying in, to understand a little bit about the culture of the university, to understand what expectations there are for the student body, but also embracing the opportunities in that first couple weeks of classes. A lot of times universities will have kind of a get-together during the first week or two, where all the different clubs and organizations come out, where all the different faculty members are available and things like that. So you're able to go out and to embrace the community that you're joining. And that's really important to make yourself at home, because that's going to be your home for 4 years or 3 years or however long you're going to be studying there. And it's, if you wait until the last minute to try to build those relationships, you're not going to have the opportunities that you would have if you began that experience day one.
Right. So the sooner they kind of jump in and start immersing themselves, I think they'll be a lot happier, and like you said, a home away from home.
Exactly. Absolutely. And universities have been working with international students for a long time now, and so whether you're going to a small college or a large state institution, they're going to be familiar with the challenges that you're going to go through, and they're going to have resources that are available for you, whether it's a writing center or a math center or different tutors and things like that, to make sure that you have the opportunities, that you have the resources so that you're able to succeed.
Thank you for that, Tyler. I think that's really important piece of advice that you've given. Now, we've been working with you with Virginia Tech for some time now. So what would you say about, partnering with IDP, how students can work with, both of us in parallel to kind of help achieve their dreams of studying in the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly going to an IDP office, talking with a counselor is a great way to initiate that process, to understand what types of programs either Virginia Tech or other universities have. Not all programs are going to fit in with what your ultimate goals are. And so it's really important that you understand what types of programs Virginia Tech offers, and the IDP counselors are going to be able to talk you through that, as well as talk you through the application process. It can be difficult, and you got to plan ahead, especially if you're going to have to take exams or take the GMAT or something like that. It's really important that you think about what your goals are, and working with someone here can help you out, but also reaching out to us at the university. We're always happy to help you during the process. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you're not sure what deadlines or what documents you need to have, you can email us, you can call us. There's plenty of ways to meet us, or whether you go to an IDP fair to meet the high school or to meet the university representatives. That's a great way just to learn a little bit about the programs, what types of people are going to be on campus as well.
Okay. So there are a lot of resources available for students, and you're here in India right now with us, and you'll be with some of our upcoming fairs also.
Yep.
So I'm sure people will be happy to meet you there. And is there any other tips or advice you would like to give students and or their parents? Like after listening to you today, they'll be like really motivated to apply and go to the US. So what other advice or tips would you like to share with them?
Looking at, the academics are really important, that side of things, but also looking at the personal side. What type of person are you? What do you want to accomplish at a university? Figuring out what types of things are available outside the classroom is really important, because academics are just one piece of the purpose of going to the U.S. to study. There's going to be that personal side, and I think that's something that sometimes is missed. Universities will have great programs, but not all universities will be able to provide you with the resources and the opportunities outside the classroom that you may expect or that you may ultimately want. And so watch videos, go online, go to Twitter, go to Instagram, see what the students are doing on campus, see if that is something that you picture yourself doing in the future, and being part of.
Good words of wisdom there, Tyler. So Tyler, as you know, IDP India has a large number of offices, a lot of counselors across the country. And while they know quite a bit about the US, we thought we would do a little rapid fire with you. Okay. So I've got a few questions for you. And you'll get about 30 seconds to answer each question.
All right. Is there a countdown clock?
Yes, there is. So I hope you're ready.
All right.
All right. Okay. So the first question, can you name 3 unique selling points about Virginia Tech?
Sure. Research. Getting involved outside the classroom. We have over 900 different clubs and organizations for you to get involved with. And then also our motto. Our motto is Ut Prosum, which means that I may serve. So Virginia Tech prides itself in giving back to the community. And that's something that's really important at the university itself.
Okay. Name some high demand programs at Virginia Tech for both undergraduate and graduate students.
Computer science and computer engineering at undergrad and grad levels. We recently partnered with Amazon to have a lot of opportunities for computer engineering students. Outside of engineering areas, I would say hospitality and tourism management, agriculture programs, as well as liberal arts programs such as human nutrition, food, exercise science, and things like that.
Okay. Is the U.S. safe and welcoming for international students?
It is. It very much is. Don't necessarily take the newspapers at face value. American citizens are very welcoming for international students. We want to welcome you into our country, want to allow you to experience our culture, and we want to learn from you. That's part of the reasons that we like to see international students come to the U.S. is because we get to learn from you, we get to learn about your experiences, your foods, your culture, your customs, and things like that.
Okay. And if I'm a student right now and I have an offer from Virginia Tech, what are my next steps? What should I do?
You should accept the offer of admission. You know, it's a really easy thing to do. You just say, yes, I want to come. We have a matriculation fee that you pay, and then that will get you on the next steps to becoming a Hokie.
Okay, a Hokie. And what's a Hokie?
A Hokie is that's a good question. So a Hokie is our mascot. It looks a little bit like a turkey, but yeah, it's a made-up animal kind of thing. So yeah, it's a very friendly animal. So.
Okay, so they can become a Hokie.
Yes, they can become a Hokie.
Okay, and lastly, how would you say Virginia Tech is different from other universities?
Sure, I think we have a very welcoming community. We are a very large university in a small town, and so that allows students to get to know rural America, but also get to experience all that's available on campus. There's always something going on. There's always new experiences to be had in and around campus. And so, you know, that volunteer experience is something that's really important as well, to get out in the community to help improve not only the local community, but to help improve the whole world itself.
Well, Tyler, thank you so much. I think the audience is going to really benefit from all the advice, wisdom that you've shared with us today.
Sure.
And I think you've done a really good job sharing like a lot of different complex information, you know, with us today. And on behalf of the whole team at IDP, we want to thank you for taking the time to be here and for joining us. And you're our first guest in our second series.
Sounds good.
So
thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to working with students from all over. Thank you.
That's all from our end today. Thank you for joining us in the second series of the IDP USA Insight series for the USA. Please do visit the IDP website. You can follow us on our social media handles. I was your host today, Dharma Nayak, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you.